Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Address the Sess. We're just going to chat about stuff today, games. If you don't want to talk about games, that's fine. Oh, and Nick, would you say this has been a busy week, game news?
I can never tell, you know? Like, are video games news ever?
I know,
Are we
that's a
being
very good
generous?
point. I mean, we had Thief come out this week. We have
Right.
Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare come out this week. So there's definitely games to be discussing. If you don't know who Nick Robinson is, shame on you. That's him right there. Say hello. Nick, do you
Hello.
want to start bringing some people in and maybe throw a question from the wonderful world of text-based questioning?
Yeah, let's open with a text question while we give folks a chance to get in. If you're watching at home, I'm assuming you're watching at home. If you're watching at work, get back to work. If you're watching at home, we're about to tweet out the link to join on
Don't
twitter.com/grab3games.
Guys, don't. If you're at work, don't work. I mean, come on. Think about the Spanish taking siestas. Think about the French doing 4-day work weeks. You know, indulge yourself a little. Waste an hour. Industry will still be there. We'll figure out a way to pollute the planet and, exploit people with an. Yeah, you don't need that hour for that. All right, so what do you see?
Agreed. I feel like we're the only company in San Francisco that doesn't have like a nap room to take naps in.
I think you're right. I think we're the only company in San Francisco lacking a lot of things, but we don't have to go into that now.
Sure. So here's a question from David McQuillan, which I like because of how specific it is. On Google+, David says, what ways are there to add difficulty levels in games without just increasing the stats of the enemies? Are there ways that were done in the past that are overlooked today?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I think the way that, and look, this isn't easy, I think, by any stretch. It should be on the AI, not just on the beefiness of the enemies. What is their field of view? How attuned are they to the audio? Like, if assuming it's a stealth-based game, what's going to be their trigger? I don't think this is done very well in many instances, but you do see some games where when you go to the harder difficulty setting, you are seeing what is fundamentally a different game. Because, I don't like, I always played the game originally on normal, because normal is normal. But when after I'm done, I like to play through on a harder setting if I feel like I'm playing a different experience, not one that may take longer by virtue of the fact that I just need to put that many more bullets into a particular enemy or bash him with a sword in his face.
Agreed. Yeah, I think the bullet sponge way is definitely like the most common and also the laziest.
Yeah, exactly. It's the easiest way to kind of give a little bit more challenge. I'm trying to think of a good example of that, and I'm happy if anyone else wants to jump in with their idea of kind of a game that really knows how to stage their difficulty levels well.
Well, while we get some answers to that question, let's talk to, I'm going to say Nathan.
Nathan.
Hey, Nathan.
Nathan.
Am I unmuted?
You are? Wow, good. That was like a record timing
Congratulations,
for unmuting.
Nathan.
You
Well
practice makes perfect, right?
Where are you reaching us from?
Potsdam, New York.
Where is Potsdam? Forgive me that I don't know it exists.
I don't blame you. It's about, let's say, 10 minutes from Canada, right near the Niagara region.
So you're in the warm part of...
Yeah, right. No, a
that's
couple
good.
weeks ago, we hit -20 at night.
And I was all like scared that I had to like go to the gym with my shorts and it was raining today in San Francisco. So yeah, I obviously I don't have a backbone. That's what we just established right there. So at least you get to stay in a lot and play video games, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. I have a games portable system, so I just use that. So
Perfect. So what's on your mind, Nathan?
I was curious for you if you had any random games that induce this sort of nostalgia. For me, it's obviously Halo 2, and for some reason, Call of Duty World at War, and I don't know why.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think nostalgia has less to do with the game or the quality of the game than, kind of what you were experiencing. I think all of us have that with music. Like, there's music that I still really like that is just too hard for me to listen to because of the particular emotional state, relationship status, or just existential crisis I may have been going through when I listen to it a lot. I definitely have strong memories attached to games. I don't know if you've ever read, I'm blanking on the author's name. He wrote High Fidelity, but his first book was, it's going to count to be English author, was called Fever Pitch. And it was about a guy who he really only understood and remembered important moments in his life by how Manchester United played. And so, sort of the structure and the titling of the chapters is who won in the match, and that might happen to coincide with his wedding. Okay. So that's how I know when certain games come out, because I can remember where I was sitting at Tech TV or at G4 or where I was living when I was reviewing the game or playing the game. And ones that really bring it back is something like Sly Cooper. A big one for me is actually Conker's Bad Fur Day. I don't like the game, but I remember that where I was sitting at Tech TV when I was playing it, and I think this happened to everybody, when you're playing Conker and you're in the rock club with the rock people, and you drink and you get a hangover, and I didn't know how to stop having the hangover, and you're supposed to go to a little box that had aspirin in it. And because it was the N64, it had all one Vaseline smeared texture. You never knew I never knew that thing was there, and I was really, really stuck. During that time, GameSpot was inside of our office, and I kept on running into who then became my friend, Shane Satterfield, formerly of Game Trailers, and we got to talking, and he's the one who helped me through that game because he was reviewing it. And then, lo and behold, I ended up hiring him. So, it's things like that. Like, games have become so central to so many important moments of my life that, yeah, nostalgia is deeply embedded in it. So,
Nathan, what's interesting to me is that the two games you listed were games from the 2000s, and I think a lot of people, when they hear like nostalgia or retro games, their first thought is obviously games of the 80s and 90s, and I think that's, I don't know, there's a whole era from like the year 2000 to like 2009 that a lot of us grew up in that like mattered a lot to us in our sort of childhoods that is kind of washed over right now. I wish we talked about that era more.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say another one that stands out to me is Resident Evil 4.
Okay. Well put.
Yeah, once again, I think I had just moved to LA, and it was like, I don't know if I like this. Is this a good idea? And here was this wonderful game to just sink my teeth into, and ignore any questions I had about my current state. So yeah, but no, it was fun. Well, I think we should ask more people about their nostalgia games as well.
Certainly. Yeah, totally. Let's see what people in the chat here are saying. They're saying that Nick Hornby is the author you're thinking of.
Yes, that's it. And I always get nervous in saying that's his name because doesn't that sound a lot like some really bad 80s pop artist? What's his face in The Range? Nick something in The Range. Not Nick Robinson in The Range, even though that'd be an excellent band. I think you should do an 80s cover band, Nick. Huh? What do you think?
Good. Yeah, let's get started on that right away. Let's also see what James has to say. We're gonna let in James now.
You know what, Nick? I can see you doing a cover of Phil Collins' "Easy Lover." Yeah, I want to do. Yeah, I think that's it.
I want to do Phil Collins covers with Phil Kohler on backing vocals.
That's the best idea possible.
Yeah,
Nick and Phil doing Phil.
I'll tweet him about that later.
All right,
here's James.
James, how are you?
Good. I'm good.
Good. Where are you reaching us from? At first I thought it was a warehouse, but it looks like it's more like subterranean.
No, actually, I live in my own basement, so
that's good.
We have a house, and my man cave is the basement. So. All
right, but do you live in your house as well, or do you just live in the basement?
No, I live in my house as well.
Okay. That just sounded like you're really kind of shorting yourself a lot of like amenities if you just lived in your own basement.
No.
Where are you reaching us from, other than your basement? Where a larger geographical location?
Salem, Oregon.
Oh, awesome. So you're here on the West Coast with us, and our fog and dampness.
Yes, and the snow that just recently destroyed my lawn. Yeah.
Oh, I apologize, but man, if you want to ship that down here, we could use it. James, what's on your mind?
I've been really interested in. Lately, I see a lot of remakes and remasters of games, and it seems like it's becoming more and more prevalent lately. I mean, you've got like the Strider that was remade, Wasteland 2, which is
Thief.
I guess, Thief, yeah. And that's something that's been interesting to me is that maybe. Is that something that a lot of industry or companies are going to nowadays? Not just on Kickstarter with
Wasteland, yeah.
Wasteland and the Wing Commander remake, basically. Star Citizen.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. So, and it's just like the game industry has kind of become, I'd almost say, stagnant, that, it's like, well, let's just start remaking all these old games.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think sometimes, like in the case of Strider, it's like, ooh, cool. You kind of took some concepts of what made the original and kind of put them into, obviously, technology that's available now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think remakes are unfortunately just kind of endemic. I mean, I'm going back to like the 1980s with film, where almost everything was a remake, and that was when we started the really noxious trend of, hey, there's a television show that wasn't very good, let's make a movie out of it. That was with Dan Aykroyd in Dragnet, and then someone's like, oh yeah, let's do a Beverly Hillbillies movie because that sounds awesome. I mean, it is. It's easy. It's quick. You know, there's some level of a built-in audience, and so it's kind of a safer bet. In the case of Thief, I think it was a great idea to revisit the franchise. I don't think the game in any way delivered on the promise of what it could have done, but there's something to be said about reinvestigating things that were really important and kind of finding their new relevance for the modern era. And once again, like a cinematic equivalent of that would be like David Cronenberg's remake of The Fly.
Right.
Which is, except for the purposes of nostalgia, a far superior, more thoughtful movie than what the original one was. I think there's potential there, but I do. You know that people making that decision at the executive level are not thinking about the creative possibilities, but kind of the easier, safer way to take an existing IP. They're not taking a risk, and assuming that at the very least we can maybe sell 1 to 2 million because there's that many people that already have an affection for what the IP represents.
Right. They already have a player base, so they're going to go, okay, we already have a player base, let's make it, and then we know about how much money we're going to make off of it.
Right.
So.
It's like so. Well, they still don't keep their costs in check, which I think is that's kind of. But they have a better chance of getting closer to breaking even than if they went with something absolutely brand new. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And that even like new IPs that we're going to get, the only reason that we're going to get new IPs in the next couple of years is because they're going to turn into franchises.
Right.
So we're seeing the beginning of a sequel this year and next year. It's just, I think it's unfortunately that's going to be the economic reality, and we're always going to have 1 or 2 publishers that are willing to take a swing to the fences and see if something new is going to happen. But it is, as I was talking about on Sess or something, it's just the cost of AAA. I mean, there's got to be ways that they can be managed and brought down so that more chances can be taken. But right now, with the way things are and how much development costs, I think that there's no choice but for more sequels and more remakes of existing franchises.
Yeah, and also it's like I think some of the publishers are looking at, like with Star Citizen. I mean, what are they up to? Like 39 million or something like that. And they're looking at that and they're going, "Oh my gosh, can we do that? Can we make a remake and get
I don't know, and I'm curious to hear from other people. I don't look at Star Citizen as a complete remake of Wing Commander. I hate the term, but there is some validity to spiritual successor.
Yeah.
Because Chris Roberts has not done anything in so long. Fine, go make me a game. I'd love to see what happens with what he was able to do with what was available at the time. Okay, take that thought process and all the learning from it, and now apply it to what's available now.
Yeah,
I'm very excited. Also, we don't have enough games like that anymore. There's I don't think we'll ever see an X-Wing versus TIE Fighter game ever again, and it makes me sad on the inside.
I think if we do, the TIE Fighters will look like Mickey Mouse.
Yep. Or Mickey Mouse will look like a TIE Fighter. Which one do you think it's going to be? I think we all know.
Yeah.
Hey, Nick, are other people in there talking about remakes or remakes they like or remakes they don't like? Or?
Yeah, we're getting a few comments in on YouTube. But more people are sort of just
comments on YouTube?
Oh, they added those. They added YouTube comments this week.
Am I still a dirty hipster or whatever it was last week?
Who can keep track? It's impossible to say.
James, you're from Oregon, and that's where all of them are, from what I understand.
Yes, there are quite a few of them. Damn hippies and hipsters and.
Let's see here. Jake Kavank on Google Plus asks, "What are some emerging industry trends that worry you as a reviewer and as a gamer?" Which I think is a pretty interesting question.
That's interesting because they really are two different things. I'm trying to think of an industry trend that worries me as a reviewer.
I think early access is kind of...
Early access is interesting because at what point should I be stepping in and giving my opinion on the game? If the game isn't done, I feel a little bit bad about doing that. And in saying this, I don't want any damn developer to ever tailor their strategy of developing a game to my ability to review it. That's just a horribly ass-backwards way of doing things. But yeah, it's a great philosophical question. You know, when does the game start? The minute it's made available to the public, albeit as a beta, or when someone potentially arbitrarily says, "Okay, we're done. What you were playing yesterday is the same thing you have now, but now it is the finished product." It's really, really interesting. That doesn't give me the same level of concern as I think servers not being turned on until the last minute. I'm not even saying like, say, with like a Battlefield or something like that, but there's a lot of games that have a multiplayer component where, because they're taking everything right up to the last minute, you aren't getting the time that you would like to have to experience and experiment with the multiplayer. Or sometimes that's even true, like if there's a patch that's supposed to be coming for the single player on day one, because and this is like, if the patch fixes the game, cool. I don't really want to, say bad things about a game if the experience everyone else is going to have is working, but I have to go off what my experience is. And there's an increasing sense of uncertainty if what I'm getting to experience is what their final product is going to be. This has been kind of growing over the past few years. And I'm going to say, I don't think this is out of ill intent or some kind of manipulation out of the evil publishers, but it's just because the way things are with the consoles all connected to the internet, that game can be developed past the point that it goes gold. And the whole idea of being gold is it's finished. And that really has changed now that we have the level of connectivity with consoles and with our PCs. What am I worried about as a gamer? I'm just worried about crappy games. Stuff that's going to be really, really safe and isn't going to really experiment.
I think the only one that really jumps out at me when I hear that question is there have been examples, I feel like, especially in the past 12 months, of games that might have been great if they weren't burdened with free-to-play microtransaction type stuff. You know what I mean? Like, by all accounts, that Dungeon Keeper, is that right? Like people said that Dungeon Keeper game.
I think you're losing your internet in there.
Oh, yikes. Well, I'll just flip someone else live, and you can deal with them.
Guys, hey, James, Nathan. Yeah. Let me know if you guys saw that same problem I did with Nick right there. Pendants, is that your name?
Yeah, that's my name. Well, my actual name's Travis, but sorry, I haven't readjusted that yet.
Hey, you know what? You're going to need to get closer to your microphone. Your voice is very, very faint.
Better now?
Still a little rough right there.
Shit. Let me just... Alright, how about that?
Uh-oh. I don't know what's exactly causing it, but you sound like you're like 10 feet away from your PC there, or your laptop. Yeah, it sounded that way to me
too. While he figures that out, you can click the little gear.
Well, you figure that out. Let's bring somebody else in.
Hey, how's it going?
Gavin, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys doing?
I like the framing of your shot. It's so modest. You're down right there at the bottom with the headphones and the picture in the background. I don't know. There's something aesthetically fun about it. Where are you reaching us from, Gavin?
I'm from Florida. I've actually been on here before, but about halfway through I got disconnected. So I'm sure people in the comments are going to be mad I got on here before, but hopefully I can stay on here the full time this time.
Well, let's see. Yeah, the past few of these addressed assessors have been a tenuous experience for all of us. So, yeah, we're going to do everything we can that you can stay on and we can all stay on. So what's on your mind, Gavin?
So I'm going to be throwing kind of a hard question at you. A while ago, you said somebody asked you if you ever got tired of video games, and you said you got burnt out on them, but you never got tired of the idea of video games that you love so much. I wanted to know what that idea of video games was that you love so much.
Well, I mean, it's the idea. I like video games because it is a very different medium, and it's a medium that really offers a lot of challenges to the more passive way of consuming things that you would get from a book, from a movie, from music, from even going to an art gallery. It's something that really, takes that involvement, and it starts to really threaten almost like the artist's authority, because it does require the player to add so much to the experience that, say like a game like Gone Home. The guy who just kind of runs through it and does the things to get to the end of the game doesn't really get the game, but there's almost like an element of faith on the part of Fulbright Company that someone is actually going to play the game the way that they intend. And there's a kind of a beauty and attention there, and there's so much room for invention and for experimentation. And like one of the more interesting aspects of reviewing games or working with like myself and my colleagues, we try to come up with these taxonomies to try to categorize. We used to do it by genre, and that's kind of falling apart. We used to do it by hybrid genres. That's falling apart. The level of innovation and challenge and trying to push exactly what the boundaries are to the medium keeps it so exciting and so fresh. And I always want to see what that new thing is and that new concept and that new way of looking at it. I think that the burnout can come from just not getting enough balance between work and life. And say like at the end of last year, where suddenly I kept on putting my penis in every single pile of poop that was out there on the internet, and just kind of just watching all the cool things that I would love to talk about with games just get absolutely subsumed into a console battle, or why is this not better than this, or you suck, you're paid off, and all that. It's not like I sit around crying about it, but it just starts to feel a little Sisyphean to even try to have a reasonable discussion when it seems that the absolute obsessive fixation is on some kind of like mine is bigger than yours battle. That's really where a lot of the burnout comes from, because it's just kind of like, I'm having fun over here, but no one seems to give a crap. Was that a satisfying answer, Gavin?
Yeah, that about sums it up.
That was a good question.
No, thank you for the question. Thank you. And that one wasn't hard. The hard ones are the questions that I haven't considered, and I'm not like that aren't part of my ongoing internal monologue.
Yeah, I was just going to.
So actually with.
There you go. Ahead.
I was going to ask you, to one of the questions that actually came from the chat earlier. What are the games that make you feel nostalgic?
Two come to mind right away, and one of them is Halo 1, because that was probably the first game where I sat down and played it, and I was like, okay, this has a formula to it, it's fantastic, and I love it. And I have all these memories of when I was younger, of all my cousins getting together, and we'd set up our LAN parties, and like you said, it's very based around the memories at the time more than the actual game.
Yeah. Well, also, the effort you had to go through to get a LAN party for Halo, that kind of makes it, I mean, yeah, it's awesome that you can just jump in a game on PSN or Xbox Live, but when you had to work for it, it's like cooking yourself a really good meal. It's like, it's going to taste better because I put 5 hours into getting to this point. That's my memory of like Halo LAN parties.
Not to mention how huge the Xbox was. Like I have memories of putting my original Xbox, in like the back of my mom's minivan and driving over to my friend's house for like Halo and Halo 2 LAN parties, and it was just the effort involved was crazy. I could almost fit it in the backpack, but it was like I couldn't zip it or something like that.
I mean, okay, not only was the Xbox ridiculously huge, but that original controller for the Xbox, which, I mean, that was back in an era where I don't think you asked consumers what they liked, or else they went to the NBA with that controller, and that's who their test group was, that big, ominous thing that it was.
I don't know about
Nick, are people talking...
But I'm a huge apologist for the original Duke Xbox controller. I loved that thing. In spite of it,
I feel the same exact way.
How old were you? How old were you? You were like 7 years old. Your hands would have been like that.
My favorite move was if you wanted to change grenades in Halo, you would actually have to rotate your hand 180 degrees and hit the black and white buttons with your pinky. That was, yeah.
Oh, that's right, the black and white buttons.
Yeah, the black and white buttons before bumpers existed. There was so much exercise involved in pressing buttons back in those days.
It was like Twister in your hands.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a great.
Or not.
It's a great box quote for a controller. It's like Twister for your hands.
It's like Twister in your hands without the fun, or the girls that give you an excuse to touch because you're playing Twister. So anyway, that's what Twister was all about. It was invented in the 70s.
Yeah.
All right, do you want to?
Different era.
Want to pull something from chat?
Yeah, let's. While I find a good chat question, because there's a lot to sort through. Let's talk to Andrew.
Hello.
Andrew.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello there, Andrew.
Hello.
You're
Hello.
a little faint.
Am I? Sorry.
Do you want to bring that microphone a little bit closer to your mouth?
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
Better.
There we go.
There. Sounds good. Where are you reaching us from?
From Glasgow in the UK. Quite far away from you lot.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, that's good. But yeah, I now pretend that I could be in Glasgow, which I've always enjoyed traveling to Scotland. It's just it's much different to that country directly to your south, and I like it. I like it for that.
Yeah. Bit of
Anyway,
there.
what is on your mind?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask my question on the reboots of franchises and more about where the developers' allegiances should lie, whether it should be with the original fans of the series or to get a new market in, because games such as Thief probably have missed both, whereas like Tomb Raider may have hit the new market but missed out on that old market with a lot of fans criticising it, for example.
Thank you for this question. And you know what? Let's, Nick, if you want to start to unmute some of the people that are already there, because I think there's a great discussion that can happen from this.
Yeah, totally.
You guys might not like my feeling on it. I think that they should not listen as much to the community. I think that sometimes we get a little too obsessive about some kind of inherent purity to the original ideal. I mean, look, I'm going to be frank. Up until the last Tomb Raider, there really weren't good Tomb Raider games. They were remarkable in certain aspects for their time, and they were well produced. But there was never something that was so remarkable that it needed to be preserved going into the later one. I think that's true for a lot of games, and it's kind of the downside of the role of community with developers. They need them. They're very important. But over time, you start to look at the community as being representative of everybody, and they're the most engaged, they want the most challenge, they're the most attuned, and if you only listen to them, it's going to be very hard to reach that larger audience. And let's be fair, if you want a game to, we all should want a good game to succeed, because that allows that creative team to make more games. I think there's a middle ground to be met. I think of all the issues I had with Thief, I actually thought the biggest one was was going to be its attempt to please everybody, and that turned out to be one of the least. It really wasn't an issue for me at all. That they did enough stuff that felt totally similar to the original Thief, but recognized the fact that things have changed. We can't move that slowly in a game or it gets really tedious. And I would say in that regard, I think they hit a sweet spot. If they had a better story, they gave you more things to do that were a little more better designed, I think it would have been an incredibly excellent game. What are your thoughts on that, Andrew?
I agree with you. I think that they should, split themselves away from the community and make it their own game, because that's what reboots are for, to make it their own game and to try and please everybody. But as I said, it's very difficult with this fan base harking on at you all the time from your ear, to try and ignore that and concentrate on making your own experience.
I mean, Fallout 3. What they had to endure from that, small but very vocal community that felt that it was somehow sacrilegious to move it to a first-person perspective. And I think we all widely acknowledge that was one of the best games of the last generation. I mean, I'm glad that they were able to put on the blinders and go forward. But I think it's cool that, and this is in all game design, it's great to listen to your base, but there's a reason why the base isn't making games, and they are. That you can't listen to them all the time. Developers have a skill set that I do not possess, and in many cases, I'll defer to them until I play the game that they're doing the right thing. We need to kind of pull back, and this is a nerd problem. This isn't just a gamer problem. Just because you consume a lot of something doesn't mean you own it. We're not tapeworms. So, but sometimes we act that way. But I don't know if some of you other guys had any thoughts to that.
I do, actually.
Good.
I completely agree with you about Fallout 3. If Fallout 3 was made for the main audience of Fallout, they wouldn't have sold nearly enough. A few thousand copies?
Yeah.
And they really tailored that to a new audience, and it flourished. They did an amazing job. Props to Bethesda.
And it was very respectful of the tone, at least of the original Fallout. I think actually Fallout 2 I thought was a better game in game design and had problems in terms of its presentation, and they found a beautiful hybrid of that. So.
Definitely. No, I couldn't agree more.
And I think someone else wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of an offshoot. I was one of the closed beta testers for MechWarrior Online, and that community was really good until you got to the point where it started coming out into open beta, where you basically had the two sides, which were the tabletop who played the old BattleTech and the people who are playing the MechWarrior Online, and both of them fighting with the developer at the same time and saying, well, this is the way it works in tabletop. This is the way it should work on, basically, which is MechWarrior Online, which is a first-person shooter, except with big robot mechs. And that community became so poisoned and so it the threats threw back and forth, and it got nasty for a while. That the developer kind of stepped back and was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna do it. We understand. You want it like the tabletop. It's not gonna work that way because the rules
I think the funny thing is,
made for a tabletop.
Yeah. Well, also MechWarrior Online doesn't exist. It's not replacing the tabletop.
Yeah.
That's the part that always fascinates me, is that we're not dispensing with the history. We're just kind of building on it. We're reinterpreting it. We're taking a new approach. I'm sounding like I've never engaged in that when I know I have. I used to just find it just appalling when I would say, when something's been remade and it didn't honor, because you think somehow that they're ignorant or that they're so craven in their commercial intent that they're willing to eschew what there was before. But I think I think that a lot when it comes to movies. But when it comes to games, I think I've been doing this for so long, you can see that's just not going to work. And one thing I do know from covering developers for so long is a lot of those ideas that the community have been experimented with, and they just were not able to function correctly inside of the game, and it's a feature that gets cut. So, all right, Nick, do you have any thoughts on that?
Me and Anthony talk about this sometimes, and I think the one way that I like looking at it is it's important to listen to the community when they say they don't like something, but not to necessarily do what they're saying to do. Because if they don't like something, then that's a real problem, and you should listen to why. But the important thing is to not necessarily take their word on what should be changed or what they even dislike. A lot of times, their reaction is in response to something other than what they think it's in response to.
Well, also, I don't want to make that out like community's a bunch of idiots. It's probably only 60% idiots.
Generous.
That's generous.
Once again, even myself, we're not possessed of the same level of vernacular, that ability to really look at the nuance and understand what happens in game design. We're really seeing it from the end product, and that's I think what makes sometimes the communication so challenging, is that you're not speaking like developer to developer. They know more. They are in the development of the game. They've seen all these things, and they're probably also beholden to some other entity to not be as forthright and as open about things that are in the game. And so it becomes a very kind of strained way of talking to one another. And I think for the most part, these guys really do their best, but they can find themselves in these really dicey situations with the fear that is a tempest in the teapot at worst, and probably absolutely really meaningless and worthless at best. I mean, and probably that happens very, very frequently.
Yeah, nobody wants to make a bad game. All right, so
I think there's one guy out there who really wants to, though.
Yeah.
Quap.
That's all right, never mind. Whatever. Let's hear from Jordan.
For the people who are just like, they changed it. The best-selling Resident Evil games by number of sales, blah. I just repeated myself. Resident Evil 5 is the top. Resident Evil 4 is the second, and Resident Evil 6 is the third. People obviously gravitated towards that style. And I remember back in 2004, when I was just getting into games and stuff, or at least like paying attention to developments and stuff, people were so angry.
Oh yeah.
At Resident Evil 4, you mean? They were angry at Resident Evil 4 for changing it?
Yeah. It's just sometimes things from the 90s aren't as good now. I go back and I try to play Fallout 1. It's just so archaic. I
think
love
we're
the
losing
franchise.
it.
Uh-oh. I think Adam's
think
freezing.
we have a connection problem there.
Am
I freezing?
So yeah, you're good now. Computers
Oh,
are weird. Anyways, what's up, Jordan? Do you have a question?
Oh,
Yeah, guys, we have some bad internet here.
Yeah. It's something we're working on. We're working on getting every Ethernet port in this building to actually function instead of just pretend to function. So that's step 2.
We're just an internet company, so don't hold it to us, okay?
Yeah. Anyways, Jordan, do you have a question?
Are there any games, doesn't matter what quality, that have just been so goofy that you've just had to enjoy? I've recently gone back and just found an old copy of Dynamite Cop. And if you know that game, that's where you are anti-terrorist group and you go fight an octopus and a hippie pirate king.
Okay, you cut out a little bit. Nick, did you hear that? What game was this? Because I need to play it and I haven't played it.
Dynamite Cop. But I think the question was, has there ever been a game so silly, so dumb, that you couldn't help but love it?
Yeah. I don't know about silly. Games don't do silly deliberately all that well, but there are certain games that are just like, it's just kind of like, yeah, I have to kind of go along with you. You guys are going to laugh at me. The one game that, like, I know it's not good when I play it, but I just kind of enjoy playing it was Too Human. Wow. It was kind of like, I can drink a lot and play that game. And that's one of those rare experiences. You know, because I tend to, I'm trying to think of other stuff that's actually silly. What's a silly game to you, Nick?
Minority Report for the GameCube, based on the movie.
Oh yeah, because they had all that glass effect, and you just throw people through glass constantly. Oh, I got one. Blood Rain. It's just so stupid, over-the-top violent. It's just like, sure, whatever. Okay, I'll just shred all these people into a little bit of ribbons. You know, I think the thing is, I can't think of a silly game from the last generation. I have to go one before that. Kind of like my obsession with The Adventures of Cookies and Cream, which is maybe the most brutally mean-spirited cooperative game ever made. And I just absolutely loved it. Yeah, you know what? That's true. And if anyone can think of a silly game that wasn't indie from the last generation, I want to hear it. And that's kind of what I miss, like the B, like your B movie game. Your one that was just kind of unapologetically just wallowing and just, look, we're just going to do the stuff we think you want.
I kind of
we have a lot of leather.
Earth Defense Force.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
the new one came out this week. And
yeah, you're right. And what's funny is, while I know that Earth Force came out in the last generation, I really attribute that to the generation prior to it. And I kind of love it for that. Yeah, Earth Defense Force.
Something about watching buildings collapse.
Why can't we have names like that? Earth Defense Force. That's so much better than like the serious names like Destiny. It's like, my God, what are you going for there? How about your space game? You know, shoot your friends on a planet. Something like that. There's more. I mean, my God, Destiny. I mean, how about just call a game God? It's just like, we need to just take a step back and like. Come on, we're putting up. It's a lot of boys playing dress up and then cowboys and Indians. There are times where I think the self-seriousness is good. We're just going to collapse under the weight of our own kind of importance. Anyway, that was my rant for this.
I almost be afraid that games would start being named like porn movies are. That would be my fear.
They certainly have a lot of numbers on the end of them. So.
Sticks of Rage.
They're not even that fun anymore. Now that the parodies have just become popular, it's just name the movie the XXX parody.
Well, also, I don't believe that because it hasn't gone up yet. Names. This has become a very relevant thing in an upcoming Scott Bromley's Internet Rabbit Hole episode. But in discussion about this, we realized that even that era of the stupid names of porns is kind of going away in light of kind of the explosion of the internet. That, you know... It's just like you just put a video out there, like 2 girls doing stuff. All right, click on it. There you go. All right, Nick, do you want to pull someone else in or bring something from a question from out there before I get myself in trouble?
Yeah, totally. There's one that just completely vanished from our list on Google+. But the question was essentially, there were games from sort of these middle generations, like the N64 and the GameCube, that there are, I guess N64 is a bad example, but like GameCube games and a lot of PS2 games, there's no way to access them readily right now. They're just trapped in this limbo of like, you have to either go get an old system or illegally emulate it. And he's like, the question was essentially boiled down to, why won't they like take my money and let me pay them to play these old games that I love?
I obviously trying to. It sounds like it's so easy. I think it would be so easy, but I think like getting the emulator inside of the machine, or like I would obviously love to have a lot of Xbox games that now work on my Xbox One. 360 games on my Xbox One. It's just. It's not as easy to transfer it, but I hate the fact that they are stuck out there in limbo. There's so many GameCube games I would love to get back. Like there's so many Dreamcast games, and I would have to think that I don't know what the cost is to do that conversion. But I mean, if I could just sit down with Mach-and X, there's a game that's so bad I had to keep playing it. Mach-and X, the first-person sword fighting game on the Dreamcast.
Katana game, yeah, the lock-on.
Yeah, that was just stupid. But I could not put it down. Forgot about that. It is. I mean, it's also we're kind of losing touch with our history, and that games live so much in the present because the technology kind of invalidates so much stuff after 2, 3, 4 years. That I would love to be able to really get a better sense of what my memory is to what the actual experience of playing the game is.
Yeah, I was doing something questionable this past weekend where I got this new gaming PC that's extremely powerful, and because curiosity overtook me, I decided to look into the Dolphin emulator a little bit, that Wii and GameCube emulator. Yeah. And so I was clutching my copy of Super Mario Galaxy 2 just in case the cops busted in to prove that I had the game. But it's like that, like Galaxy 2 running at 1080p. Even though it's a few years old now, still the best, like maybe the best looking game I've seen all year. Like that game is jaw-droppingly gorgeous, and there is no legal way to play that in HD. It's tragic.
No, and it's still probably one of the best designed games of the past 10 years. I mean, it's so incredible how every level is so different from one another, yet they're still working within a fairly limited moveset. It's just, But yeah, it's just like Nintendo could make money. Something they are a little bit challenged at doing right now.
It sounds stupid when I say it out loud, but the thought crossed my mind this weekend of like, this sounds so dumb, but why is like if Super Mario Galaxy 2 was a game that you could get on Steam and play in 1080p, and it would be the most polished, best-selling game on Steam by a complete fucking landslide.
Oh, I'm going to have my nervous breakdown about the business decisions at Nintendo in a second.
There was a question, and I chose not to read it, but there was a question that was like, if you were in charge of Nintendo today, what would the change be that you made that saved the company? You know?
I would find a way to... Okay, here's what I believe the long-term plan should be. You don't have to get rid of... get a new controller. Get a controller that plays normal games, something that works. Something that can play, a lot of the old GameCube games, something that will work with something like Mario Galaxy. Get those games on the Wii U now. Start to move away from defining that console based upon a controller that seems that not even people at Nintendo have a full grasp of how to exploit. That still might be a little ways off, but it's probably their quickest and easiest fix. I think trying to get them to move the content to other systems, which I think they would make more money than they would know what to do with. They don't even have to go to mobile. Just get console agnostic, the money would be coming in. The strength of their IPs are so powerful, and it's not like they're just trapped inside of a walled garden. They're trapped inside of a doorless room at this point, and they really need to realize that they have to. A lot of it, I think, is pride. And they're going to have to acknowledge they really, really went astray with this one. They kind of made their entire console like it's like the same. It's like the experiment of the Virtual Boy or the Power Glove is now an entire console, and it's not finding an audience. There's no way it's going to find an audience going forward, especially now that the PS4 and the Xbox One are out there on the market, and they really are getting all of the mindshare and all of the attention and all of the third parties. I'm not saying it's a happy thing, but I don't see what the other way out is.
See, I think it's the name that's the biggest problem.
I agree with you on that.
Wii U is just completely... parents will pick it up on the shelf and they go, "What's this?" They should have just called it the Wii.
We have a Wii. That's what they're thinking. Also,
right.
Here's the thing that they made such a mistake on. Yes, the Wii sold so well, and all these people that never played games before bought the Wii. And we don't know. Okay, also, the Wii had the worst attach rate. It barely had a 1-to-1 game ratio, and the damn thing was bundled with Wii Sports. That starts to show that people were buying it. Also, there's one other fact I found fascinating. About halfway through the life of the console, all three consoles were out. The Wii had the highest average income of its owners, higher than the infinitely more expensive PS3 and the significantly more expensive Xbox 360. The way that I started to read that, when you look at that with the attach rate, it was almost like it was a fad. People bought it. That does not mean that they have decided they're going to devote time and attention to that. The second half of a console life cycle is where you've amortized the value of the console, but you're selling less, but you're making a profit on it. Now you have such a large install base, people are buying games. No one was buying the games. The attach rates were really low to the number of Wiis that were out there. That's an indication that these truly are casual gamers in that they aren't playing games. How are you going to get these people who bought this thing and used it a little bit because it was the cool thing to do to drop down even more money for a console when they don't even affiliate themselves with video gaming? It was a really short-sighted way of reading their marketplace and just thinking that their success was going to beget success. It was a very unique set of circumstances that caused for that explosion of the Wii, and it was, I hate to say it, more like a pet rock than a PlayStation 2. So.
Yeah. Especially because like the random people who bought a Wii, when they go to the store and they buy their second game, if they did that at all, were buying like a Carnival Games style minigame collection that was garbage.
It was Wii Play. Wii Play was the second most popular game.
Yeah, like they would buy another minigame collection.
And have a second controller.
That's true. It did have a second controller. So.
That was the only way to get a controller for a while. Sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
No, you're absolutely right. That was true. So once again, how much? Now you don't even have fidelity to the damn game you're buying. You just want the value pack, the value add that comes with the game. There's some tea leaves there that aren't too hard to read. Oh my God, I'm gonna have a bunch of Nintendo.
No one was buying Wii Play Motion or whatever.
I just think, to their credit, I think it would be impossible to not be tempted to try and bottle the magic of the Wii again, because it was like that thing was so huge. It was like sold out for like 3 Christmases straight, you know.
But even though I'll never watch his movies again because of the revelations that came out, but anyone who's seen Annie Hall, have any of you seen Annie Hall? Okay, you know the lobster scene at the beginning with Annie? It's really funny. Now he's broken up with Annie at the end. He's brought the lobsters out. She doesn't get it. This is the second lobster scene. You can't recreate the magic. It's just not going to happen. So, yeah.
The other problem was shovelware. The amount of shovelware they're bringing out on the Wii at the end of its life cycle was ridiculous. Same with the DS.
It was quite. Well, goodbye, Nick. That was fun.
I mean, my father-in-law, he's been playing GameCube Zelda on his Wii. That's what he uses his Wii for.
Well, yeah, and also the most important thing that you can play on your Wii, which is made available for the GameCube, were the 2 discs that have both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
Yep.
That's still probably the most valuable thing. It's just, God, this is sad.
Yeah.
Nick, bring somebody in.
I will. While I do that, we got some good answers to the silly games from last gen question.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people talking about the Katamari games, which I guess was a PS2 thing originally, but that's a good answer. We've also got this. I can't believe we forgot about this. Blood Dragon, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon.
Oh yeah. But that's like. They knew exactly what they were doing with Blood Dragon. So that doesn't fall completely into silly game because it was just such a brilliant execution on something ridiculous.
So you're talking about games that were dumb almost on accident.
Or that you can't tell. As you guys might know, I finally got to see myself in a horror movie that I filmed last year. And it was cool as I got to watch this movie with me in it, sitting next to the one and only Lloyd Kaufman of Troma Studios. And Yeah, I was completely pooping myself. But, you know, his movies are kind of that. It's like, do they know or do they not know? That, you know, Sorority Babes at the Slimeball Bowl-orama is a piece of cinematic majesty.
Let's bring in this guy, the Boss Dav. Hello.
Hey, Boss Dav.
Yeah, it's me again.
Yeah,
I remember you.
I'm
the bad guy.
Yeah, well, I know. I just know. I just thought that if I can come here another time. Not again. Just don't. But anyway, I have something to talk about, which is nostalgia. Thing is
all of you are too young for nostalgia. I'm all 40 and just like thinking about when I can move myself with agility.
Actually, I'm 40.
All right, maybe I can. So
you're a little bit behind.
Anyway, go on. It's fine.
Wait, I can't talk about nostalgia.
Of course you can. But it's paining me that you guys are already getting nostalgic. My God, I think I'm getting the Mr.
Okay, I will not say nostalgia. I would say that the earliest memory I ever played a game.
Go for it.
How about that?
Yeah, and nostalgia is fine too. I'm just poking fun at myself.
All right, no problem. Well, the thing is, the game that I always remember was playing Pokemon Red on the Game Boy, because it was not just the gameplay or the story; it was just the music. I mean, the music was when I was a kid, it was just amazing, and now even at my age, I'm still remembering it. It just engraved in my mind.
No, and I imagine for you it was, and for some of you guys too, that when you were a certain age and suddenly you could play the games in your hand, that you had a lot more control. Yeah. My memory of when I was probably around the age that some of you had your Game Boy, you know, I had my
Hello?
Exciting if it was right for me to be playing it at that time, and that sense of retaining control, having that personal agency of they don't know that I'm playing, must have been awesome. Am I right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I get it. I had that. I think I had that feeling as well.
Yeah, but no, I know what you mean, especially when you're young. I mean, look, I will never forget playing Super Mario Brothers the first time. The music, when I first found the warp level. And it was that moment of, does anyone else know about this? Oh my God. And just, you know, slowly putting together, there's all these hidden things in the game. And it was that moment that it's not just what the game is, there's subtext, there's hidden meaning, there's secrets. You know, it's such a wonderful, wow. I miss that sensation. And if you do become a game reviewer, it pretty much goes away.
By the way, speaking of reboots, have you guys ever thought of, what's your opinion on crossovers?
Crossovers?
Where two games of two different franchises come together.
I mean, how often does that happen outside of a fighting game?
Well, no,
Dragon versus Battletoads.
Well, the thing is, there's a game called, I think some guys might know about it, because there's a game called, Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay. And for me, I'm gonna get that game because always heard that, always been seeing that these two franchises have been releasing lots of these these sequels to the Nintendo DS. I was like, I think for me the crossover is great in my opinion, because since I never played both franchises, I can finally try the both different types of games together in one.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think it can work. I mean, it's like any type of fusion cuisine. It's like, Asian fusion sounds good. I don't know if I want to put. I'm trying to think of a really bad idea. Someone want to help me out here?
It could be a bad idea when it comes to.
I mean, yeah. I mean, look, if you put Ratchet and Clank inside of my Halo, I'd be probably a little like, no, please don't do that.
Did you guys hear about that game Namco High? There was a game called Namco High that was like a dating simulator, and it was like, what was it? It was one of the characters from Katamari, the ship from Galaga, some Homestuck characters, like I think Mega Man was probably in there. Just like very weird. The drum from Taiko Drum Master, like.
See, now that's cool.
Right.
If you get that irreverent, that's cool.
You can literally the most niche thing ever.
Yeah. You're not going to make any money on it, probably. But I think it definitely works with a lot of the older Japanese companies that have such a diverse and eclectic, assortment of characters. I think like if IDOS decided to do IDOS High, that would be atrocious.
Well,
it's like, hey, look, it's JC from Deus Ex and Lara Croft.
See where I'm going here? Lightning Returns has an unlockable. Maybe it was a pre-order bonus, but like a Lara Croft outfit for Lightning in Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns. So they're at least towing that water.
It's an unlockable, so you unlock it at your own choosing.
Sure, yeah.
And guys, on the subject of locking things, I'm afraid that we're going to have to close down this episode of Address the Sess. I know that we did start early, but I gotta be frank. I have a wife, and I need to see her because we are going somewhere. It's a wine tasting.
Okay, before we go, guys, before we leave, I actually checked some news, and apparently, Twitch Plays Pokemon have been able to collect all badges.
All badges?
I tried to tell Adam that before the stream started, and Adam was like, I wish that meant something to me.
Now, I know that we did Twitch Plays Adam Sessler. The reason why we made it like an adventure game and not like Pokemon, I would have had no idea what the hell was going on. It is, there's a franchise. There's always someone else near me that loved it so much, I never felt I needed to play it myself. So there you have it, an admission from Adam. He hasn't played Pokemon. All right. Well, you guys all mulled over that. Thank you so much. I know we didn't get to a couple of you. Nick will attempt to reach out and see if we can make it up for you the next time that we do address the Sess. Once again, there's a lot of fun. Sorry about some of the internet connections and the weirdness. Remember, we're just an internet company, so we'll see what we can do about that.
Yeah, we'll have the technical difficulties worked out by next week, hopefully.
All right, everyone. Take care. We'll do this very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Later.
Bye.